Okay. What not to do in the USA. 8 don'ts when visiting the United States of America. This will be very useful for me, seeing that I'm going to visit the United States hopefully in the next year or so. It's one of my bucket list trips. So yeah, this should be very interesting. We did a similar video to this, a couple weeks ago. So I'll see how this one compares. Let's go.
Hey guys, France may be the top tourist destination in the world with almost 90 million tourists a year.
France is the most visited country in the world by tourists. I would not have guessed that. I would have actually guessed the United States. But, I guess, Paris is, a very likely place to go for couples, etc. So I guess it makes sense.
But the US is not that far behind with around 77 million tourists.
Okay, so they're up there.
So it's safe to say there are a lot of non-Americans who will be visiting the land of cheeseburgers.
Let's go, baby.
So with the summer coming up, and as an American, which I feel like that pretty much makes me an expert on the subject, I thought it was a perfect time to do a what not to do video and give you some tips of things you should shy away from when visiting good old America. Don't forget to like the video, please subscribe to my channel, and of course, leave your comments below. Little spoiler alert,
Also folks, for our channel, if you are enjoying these reactions, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I'm uploading videos like this every single day.
Had so many tips that I will absolutely do a part 2 at some point. So if you think there's something major I left out of this video, don't hesitate to leave it below so that I make sure it gets into the second one. All right, let's go.
Let's go, baby.
Most people don't like strangers getting too close to them, which seems kind of logical. It creeps out everybody.
Right.
However, in the US, where we already love things that are massive, we also love our massive personal space bubble. So everyone has, a space that feels personal to them, but scientists have proven that in the US, we not only have a space that is much larger compared to our counterparts in France and Western Europe, but also Americans have a very low tolerance for people invading that space. So don't start off your vacation with an expensive trip to the hospital because you unknowingly stood too close to somebody on an empty subway. Just take my advice, and any randos that you might meet along the way, be standing next to in line, just keep a 1 meter distance and you'll be fine.
To be honest, I think she makes more about this point than she necessarily has to. I think it's just common decency that you get out of someone's way or you respect their personal space. I think that's perfectly fine. That's definitely nothing too crazy. I'm surprised that she says that Americans need more personal space than those in France, because every single American that I've met has been extremely fun and friendly, whereas folks from certain parts of Europe that I've met at the beginning are very standoffish, and eventually, over time we get to know each other and become friends. But Americans, bam, friends off the bat. So I'm surprised that Americans need so much personal space because they're so friendly and dynamic in nature. But anyway, let's continue.
Guys, don't insult the US. It is so not worth it. Even the Americans who understand where you're coming from are gonna be super patriotic. We're just a much more patriotic population than France, and we don't have the same debate culture. So you're not really gonna come off as like funny and witty. Most people are just gonna think you're a total arse. And if you make the mistake of doing it like in a bar, when people are tipsy, in the South, like Texas, don't say I didn't warn you. It's not gonna go over well. So just stay away from that subject. It's a bit like the family. Like, I can criticize my family, but I don't want to hear you criticizing them. That's kind of US in a general nutshell, so just stay away.
To be fair, if you're visiting the US, you're on vacation, you want to explore the different cultures that exist within the US, why would you start criticizing it to the people that live there? That just sounds it's very, very stupid. So definitely I will not be breaking that rule. I come from a country that has a host of problems, as you might know, South Africa. So I'm definitely not going to go travel to the US and criticize it unnecessarily. So I think we're in the clear so far.
All right, all you lovers heading to the US on vacation, please keep your tongues to yourself. In France, you'll often see people smooching, couples laying on the grass, rolling around together, putting on lots of public displays of affection for anybody who happens to walk by and see. That's really not the case in the US. We are so prude. And I know, we love violence and guns. However, we find it weird to talk about sex. I think it's kind of bizarre, but it is the truth. So just kind of tone down the...
I don't particularly agree with her stance that the US loves violence or etc. Whenever I hear US people talk about guns, it's more out of a means of protection, the right to protect yourself. So don't necessarily agree with that comment. As far as a comment about no kissing in public, I'm totally okay with that. Listen, hectic public displays of affection are not my thing anyway. So far, so good.
Public displays of affection that you're used to in France. We're totally okay with hand holding, like
Right.
closed mouth kissing here and there, a little butt grab. You can do the cheeky butt grab and it's okay. But save the rest for the hotel room. I mean, no one's gonna arrest you if all your clothes are on, but you're gonna get a lot of parents glaring at you while they cover their kids' eyes, or old ladies on the bench giving you the side eye. So, just...
I think that's fair. Don't make anyone
It's actually
uncomfortable.
illegal in Washington State to skip the line, to cut the line in front of everyone to grab the ferry. You get fined for it. I know in France you're more about bending the rules and interpreting things as you see fit and kind of saying okay, I'm running late, it's not a big deal, I'll piss everyone off, but who cares? That just doesn't fly in the US. We generally tend to be a population that follow the rules, and we take it pretty offensive if you break the rules, especially when it impacts us. So I would just recommend when you see a line, just get in the back of the line and kindly wait your turn. Otherwise, I think you risk to have some pretty aggressive arguments with the people that you're cutting in front of.
To be fair, I find this totally reasonable so far. I mean, who just cuts in line? I feel like if you're in such a rush that you have to get something done quickly, I'm sure if you ask a stranger, listen, can I cut in front of you because I'm in such a rush, they'll generally allow you, but you don't just cut in line without asking someone. It is very rude. It's not even the fact that you make people wait, it's just the audacity of it. So definitely so far, so good.
Does not mess around when it comes to IDs. You'll see signs everywhere that say, we card if you look under 65, which pretty much means if you don't look like someone's grandparent, they're gonna ask you for ID when you buy alcohol, when you're getting cigarettes, if you wanna go into a club. Extra tip, if you're buying alcohol, for example, and you bring a friend with, even if they're not paying or grabbing the alcohol, the cashier can still ask for their ID as well. And if they can't prove they're of age, they won't sell to you.
Wow.
So honestly, when you leave the house, no matter what you're doing, just make sure that your entire crew and the dog has an ID.
So, interesting fact, in case you're interested in this, in South Africa, our legal driving and drinking age is 18 years of age, where I believe in the US it's 21 to drink and 16 to drive. Am I correct? So, slight differences there.
Public transportation in the US, like trains and buses, is an absolute joke. Seriously, nothing compared to what you have in France and in Europe. Check out the Netflix comedy skit that I put in the description below. It's mind-blowing, and it explains why public transportation, or at least some of the reasons why public transportation is so terrible in the US. And shocker, it's mainly related to rich old white men wanting to make more money. But anyways, if you aren't in cities like...
I think it's too necessary to say rich old white men, but the one thing I know for sure is that this won't necessarily impact me at all. Main reason being, in South Africa, our public transport is terrible, very unsafe. So you have to get used to owning your own vehicle and getting from point A to B by yourself. So if I was to go to the US, I'd most likely rent a car for that trip, and that's what I would be doing my road trip in. So this doesn't really affect me at all as well.
Washington, D.C., Seattle, Boston, Chicago, New York, San Fran. Honestly, it's just not worth it. You shouldn't depend on public transportation. Just rent a car. Most Americans drive anyway, so it'll be like the real American experience. If you do decide to rent that car, please brush up on the rules of the road in the US. It is not quite the same as in France. We don't have the same priority to the right. You know, sometimes the stoplights are after the intersection instead of before the intersection. Just, you might end up in an accident if you don't, or pissing someone off who has major road rage.
The one difficult thing is in South Africa, you know, we drive on the opposite side of the road, I believe. You know, we're on the left, you guys on the right. So yeah, I don't know how long that will take to get used to. From what I've heard from other friends that have traveled to the western side of the world, it doesn't take them that long to get used to it. So hopefully that's the case with me as well.
Also, I would not recommend engaging in road rage. US drivers can be really aggressive. It's not worth it, especially not when you're on vacation trying to have a good time. So stay safe, stay calm, keep these fingers down, and watch out if you're in Miami, because they are known for being the most aggressive drivers in the US.
Miami?
Really, don't expect to sit at a restaurant for hours in the same way that you could in France, especially if you're not ordering food. I know you can, have a 3-hour lunch in France, or you can order an espresso and sit in a cafe for 3 hours without ordering anything else, but it's not necessarily the same in the US. Any dinner at a restaurant over an hour long is considered long for Americans. In the US, it's all about churning tables, and they want you in that restaurant to eat, and they want to get you out as quickly as they can. Feel free to stay if you're ordering more food and more drinks, but as soon as that slows down, the waitress will politely bring you your bill and expect to get her tip and get paid and get you out of there. All right.
Okay, so I think that's fairly reasonable. If you've had your meal and you're just sitting there for hours on end, it's it's costing the restaurant, because another family or another couple, whoever, could be taking that table. So I think that just comes down to common decency. So yeah, those were pretty much all the 8 don'ts to do when visiting the United States. None of them were pretty crazy. Essentially, you just have to be a normal, decent human being and you'll be fine. I mean, yeah, I didn't find anything there untoward, so none of that puts me off visiting. I would have done all those things without having to watch this video. But folks, please let me know in the comments below if there are any other don'ts that I should be aware of before I make my trip to the United States. I definitely appreciate your guys' feedback, your guys' comments, your guys' advice on all the videos so far. It's been helping me greatly. I truly do appreciate it. But folks, that's all I have for you today. So until next time, I hope you have a good one. I'll see you when I see you. Cheers.